The present simple tense is a very useful tense, and it talks about a very big time on the timeline of events, as you can see in this diagram. There are 5 important situations to use the present simple tense. First is to provide personal information. For example, my name is Hannah. I am 26 years old. I like chocolate. All of these are present simple tense. We also use this tense to provide facts or something that is always true. For example, the world is round, the capital of England is London, and English is a language. The third situation is a regular event, a habit, something you do very often. For example, I play tennis every Saturday. I go to the cinema every day. Or I celebrate my birthday every year. The fourth situation is for future events. For example, she has English class tomorrow. The restaurant opens at 7 p.m. tonight, and the train leaves this afternoon. All of these are in the future, but there is a special time phrase that helps us explain this is in the future. Tomorrow, tonight. The fifth situation is a little bit more difficult. This is with stative verbs. A stative verb is a special type of verb that explains a feeling, an emotion, a sense. There is a long list of stative verbs in English. We have attached this list in a document underneath this video. You don't need to know all of these verbs and their definitions at beginner level in English. But as you progress, it's important to think, oh, maybe that's a stative verb, and that is why this is different. When we learn a tense in English, we do this with the personal pronouns. Remember, there are 7 personal pronouns in English: I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. And we will use these personal pronouns for every form of the verb. To start with the present simple in the affirmative, we are going to use the example verb to read. The form is I read, you read, he reads, she reads, it reads, we read, and they read. You will notice that the verb changes with he, she, it. There is an additional S at the end. Let's review another verb. Talk. I talk, you talk, he talks, she talks, it talks, we talk, and they talk. Again, there is an additional S at the end. So this is the rule for the present simple tense in the affirmative, positive. We add an S in the he, she, and it forms. Let's review another verb. Watch. This is I watch, you watch, he watches, she watches, it watches, we watch, and they watch. This is a little bit different because we don't have S in the he, she, it form. We have ES instead. Let's review another example. Go. I go, you go, he goes, she goes, it goes, we go, and they go. This is the same. We also have ES with the he, she, it form. What is happening? What is the rule? When the last letters of the infinitive verb are X, Z, S, CH, O, and SH, then we add ES in the he, she, it form. This is very similar to the plural rule. This is why watch adds ES to he, she, it. because the last letters are CH, watch. The same for go. This is why we add ES in the he, she, it form, because go ends in O. Now let's move on to a different rule in the affirmative. We're going to use this example verb, study. This form is I study, you study, he studies, she studies, it studies, we study, and they study. This is completely different. We have IES and there is no Y. When the last letter is Y, then we first eliminate this Y. We do not want this Y. So we have stud. And then we add IES. And now we have studies. Remember, this is only the he, she, it form. You might notice this is very similar to the plural rule in English. Let's review another example, fly. I fly, you fly, he flies, she flies, it flies, we fly, and they fly. This ends in Y, so we eliminate that Y, and then we add IES. And this is why we have he, she, it flies written like this. We are going to review one more verb. This also ends in Y. Play. I play, you play, he plays, she plays, it plays, we play, and they play. This ends in Y, but we haven't followed the same rule as study and fly. Here we only add S. What is happening? So we have these two verbs, play and study, and the final letter in both words is Y. But the present simple form is different. Let's analyze the penultimate letter. In play, this is A, and in study, this is D. A in play is a vowel, and D in study is a consonant, and this is why it's different. If it is vowel plus Y, we add S in the he, she, it forms. If it is consonant plus Y, then we eliminate Y and add IES to the end of the he, she, it forms only. And this is why it's a little bit more difficult if the last letter is Y. So let's quickly summarize all of those present simple affirmative rules. Normally, we add S in the he, she, it forms, like with the verb read. But if the verb ends in CH, SH, Z, X, S, or O, like go, then we add ES in the he, she, it form. And if the last letter is Y, we have two options. Consonant plus Y, eliminate the Y, add IES, like study, only in the he, she, it forms. And vowel plus Y is simply add S, the normal rule. Every single verb in English follows these affirmative rules, but there are two exception verbs, have and be. The verb have changes in the he, she, it form. I have, you have, he has, she has, it has, we have, they have. And you should already know the verb to be, which is I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, and they are. To learn the negative of the present simple, let's return to our example verb, read. Remember, this is personal pronoun plus the verb. So how do we convert this from an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence? We insert an extra verb. The technical term for this is an auxiliary verb. And this verb is do, or in the negative, don't. And this would be I don't plus the infinitive form of the verb. So we do not change this verb. I don't read, you don't read. For he, she, it, the verb don't changes to doesn't. She doesn't read. Really important, this is the infinitive, not reads, read. He doesn't read, it doesn't read, we don't read, and they don't read. The negative is really easy in English because it's the same for every single verb, even the exceptions in the affirmative. Let's take a look. For example, go. I don't go. You don't go. He, she, it doesn't go. We don't go. They don't go. The verb go does not change. The same for study. I don't study. You don't study. He, she, it doesn't study. We don't study and they don't study. Remember, we had some exception verbs too. Have, this was a little bit different in the affirmative, but in the negative, it's the same. I don't have. You don't have. He, she, it doesn't have. We don't have. They don't have. The only verb that is completely different is the verb to be, but you should already know this at your level. This is I'm not, you aren't, he isn't, she isn't, it isn't, we aren't, and they aren't. To ask a question in the present simple tense is quite a difficult thing to do because there are 4 structures that we can use. Let's review each structure individually. And we'll start with quasi. We use the acronym quasi to help you remember the structure. Question word, auxiliary verb, subject, and infinitive verb. Let's review an example. A question word, what? Auxiliary verb is very similar to the negative. This uses do or does. Then the S is the subject. This is a different way of saying the personal pronoun. I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. And finally, we have the infinitive verb, for example, like. An example question could be, what do you like? What does he like? All 4 parts. And we can replace the question word and the infinitive verb to change the meaning of the question. For example, where do you live? Where does she live? The second question structure is quas, and this is question word, auxiliary verb, subject. But the auxiliary verb is different. This is not the verb to do. This is the verb to be. For example, who am I? Who are you? Who is he? Who is she? Who is it? Who are we? And who are they? You can replace the question word with any question word. For example, where am I? Where is he? The third question structure is ASCII. This has 3 parts: auxiliary verb, subject, infinitive verb. Here we return back to the verb to do, and we have an infinitive verb at the end. For example, do you sing? Does he sing? And we can replace the infinitive verb to change the question. For example, do I dance? Do they dance? And the final question structure is really short, as. This only has 2 question parts, auxiliary verb, subject. The auxiliary verb is the verb to be here, and always after these questions there will be some additional information to complete the question. For example, am I happy? Is he happy? Or am I a teacher? Are you a teacher? So we have all 4 question structures. When do we use each one? This is quite a difficult thing to understand. The first thing we want to ask is, do we need a question word? Yes or no? If we ask for specific information, then we need a question word. For example, if we ask about a place, we need where. If we ask about a time, we need when. A person, we need who. These are all the question words you should already know. If you only want a yes or a no answer, then we don't need a question word. We just need an auxiliary verb. So you really need to understand, what do you want to ask? Specific information, yes, you need a question word. Not specific information, just yes or no, then no question word. The question structures with a question word are quasi and quas, and no question word assi and as. Now we need to ask an additional question to separate these four structures. The verb to be is very selfish in English. It does not play with other verbs. So we use the question structures quas and as, with the verb to be is the auxiliary verb when there are no other verbs in the sentence. Remember our examples: who am I, quas structure. There is no other verb. Who am, verb to be, I, no other verb. The same as the as structure. Am I a teacher? There are no other verbs. If there is an additional verb in the question, we can use the quasi and the assi structures. So to decide the correct question structure in the present simple, you need to know what you want to ask. Do you want a question word? And is there another verb in the question? Let's analyze some example questions to understand this. For example, what type of music do you listen to? Our structure here is what type of music, which is a very long question word, do, which is our auxiliary verb, you, which is the subject, and then listen, which is our infinitive verb. So this is a quasi structure. If we put this on our question tree, do we want a question word? Yes. Is there another verb? Yes. Quasi. Another example, where are you from? Where, question word, are, auxiliary verb, verb to be, and you, subject, from is just additional information. This is the quas structure. There are no other verbs in the question. Is there a question word? Yes. Is there another verb? No. Quas structure. If we do not ask for specific information in English, so no question word, we just want a yes or a no answer, then we need to use a short response. So this will be a response to an assi or an as question. If I ask you the question, do you like chocolate? You can respond yes. But this is not very nice in English. Yes or no. It's very basic, very simple, and sometimes a little bit rude. So we create a special structure to say the same information, yes or no, but in a nice and a polite way. Let's take this example. Do you like chocolate? If I respond yes, I say yes. Then we say the subject for the person who is talking, yes, I, and then the auxiliary verb. And the auxiliary verb is the one in the question. In the question, do you like chocolate? Do. This is the auxiliary verb. So my response is yes, I do. This is lovely, really nice, really polite in English. Do you like chocolate? Yes, I do. And in the negative, we change the yes to no, and the verb becomes negative too. Do you like chocolate? No, I don't. Again, it's nice and polite. If it's a different auxiliary verb, the verb to be, for example, are you happy? Then our response needs the verb to be. For example, are you happy? Yes, I am. This is the verb to be. And in the negative, are you happy? No, I'm not. So to review the short responses in English, this is only with no question words in the question. And we say yes or no, plus the subject, and then the auxiliary verb, which can be do or be.